In this objective, we're going to be talking about the mean, median, mode, and range of a data set. So as a reminder, data is information collected from a set of items. We will often use data to calculate the statistics. Okay. So we have a couple of vocabulary words that we need to make a definition for or review the definition of. So frequency is simply the number of times that something occurs. So for our purposes, that something is typically going to be a number. And we're going to be focusing on what's called the mean, median, and mode. So the mean is the average of the numbers, and its proper definition is the sum of all the values divided by the number of values. The median is the middle number of a set in chronological order, or what we mostly think of as ordering in least to greatest. And that's very important because order matters when we're trying to find the middle. If there happen to be two middle numbers, we simply find the average or the mean of them in order to represent our median. The mode is the data value that occurs most often in the set, and we could say is the most frequent. And there can be more than one mode, and there can also be no mode. So we're going to take a look at a couple of data sets and find all of these different values. So when you're doing any of this work, it's very important to remember to first and foremost put your data set in order from least to greatest. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for both of these data sets to save us a bit of time. Okay, so we now have our two data sets in order from least to greatest. And you can pause the video if you need to take a moment to write these down on your paper. We're going to find the three previously mentioned pieces of information about these data sets. So the first thing we're going to find is the mean. So for the mean, we are going to simply add all of our numbers together. So I'll write this out for the first one, and then we'll go and shorten it for the second one. So this is going to be 2 plus 5 plus 7 plus 7 plus 9 plus 11 plus 12 plus 16 plus 20. We're going to divide that by how many numbers we had. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers. All right. And when we put that in our calculator, that will give us our mean. And you can go ahead and just round to the nearest hundredths place if you get a decimal. So this is going to be 9.89. Our median is that middle number. So the easiest way to find the median is to make sure, again, that your data set's in order from least to greatest, and then cross off a number from either side evenly. So one on the left, one on the right, one on the left, one on the right, until we have only one or two numbers left in the middle. If there's only one number left in the middle, that's your median. And in the next data set, we'll talk about what happens if there are two. Our mode is our most repeated number. So we want to go to our data set and look and see if any numbers are repeated. For our data set here, the only number that's repeated is 7. So that means that 7 would be our mode. It is our most frequently represented number. It's represented 2 times, whereas every other number is only represented once. For our second data set, for our mean, if we add up all of those numbers, we will get 178. There are 8 numbers in the data set, so we'll divide 178 by 8 to find a mode of 22.25, or excuse me, a mean. For our median, we're using the same strategy as before, where we're going to cross off one on each side. So right, left, except this time we're left with 2 numbers in the middle. When we're left with 2 numbers in the middle, we're simply going to find the mean of those 2 numbers. We're going to add them together, and divide by how many there are, and there are 2, and that will tell us our median. So right in the middle there, even though we don't technically have a data point, our median is 23, so in between those two numbers. For our mode, we're looking for numbers that are repeated. So here we have 16 is repeated twice, and 24 is also repeated twice. Since they are both having a frequency greater than 1, and they both have the same frequency, they're repeated twice, they're both our mode, 16 and 24. If one was repeated more than the other, say we had 3 24s, then 24 would be our mode, and 24 alone. The last piece of information we're going to find is what we call the range. So the range is the greatest number in the set minus the least number in the set. So we're going to find the range of both of these sets. When they're in least to greatest, it's quite easy to find our range because our greatest number is on the right and our least number is on the end for both of our data sets. Very easy to find. So for the first data set, I'll take 20 minus 2 to give me a range of 18. And for the second data set, we'll take 30 minus 16 to give us a range of 14. So when we're working with data, oftentimes we will use something called a frequency table to represent our data rather than writing out a big long list of numbers. So a frequency table simply shows the frequency or how many times each item in the set is represented. So for us, that's numbers. So how many ones do we have? How many twos, threes, and so on. So the frequency table we see here represents the numbers we got when rolling a number cube, or often called a die. The first thing we want to do in finding the mean, median, mode, and we're going to find the range as well of a frequency table like this, is to list out the values that we have so we can look at it as a typical set of data. So because there are 3 tick marks next to 1, that tells me that 1 was rolled 3 times. I'll have 3 ones here. 2 was rolled only once. 3 was rolled twice. 4 was never rolled. 5 was rolled 5 times. So we'll have 5 5s. And 6 was rolled once. The nice thing about a frequency table is it often also allows you to create a data set that is already in order from least to greatest. So we want to find the mean of this data set. So for that, we're going to add all of those numbers together, and we'll get 42. We'll divide it by how many numbers are there. There are 12 numbers, or 12 data points. And we'll find that we have a mean of 3.5, or an average of 3.5. To find the median, we're going to do what we did before, cross off 1 on either side, go find our middle. So left, right, all the way until we find our middle value, or in this case, our 2 middle values. When we find those 2 middle values, we simply want to find the mean of those 2 values. So 3 plus 5 divided by 2, which gives us a median of 4. So it's not one of our data points, but it's what we consider our middle. We have quite a few numbers that are represented more than once, and for the mode, because we're looking at frequency, it's easiest just to look at our frequency table, and we want to see which number was represented the most often, and that would be our 5s. So our mode here would be 5. And our range is always our greatest number minus our least number. So for us, our case here, 6 minus 1, which gives us a range of 5.